Honorable Minister, so we heard the Deputy Speaker say 137 plus me, counting himself. The contention here is that if whilst as Speaker, whilst presiding, the Constitution says that he cannot have or retain his original vote or have a casting vote, how then is he able to count himself as part of the people for the purpose of the voting, given that the count is a condition precedent for the vote to occur? He can participate in the condition precedent, but he cannot participate in the vote. Or can he participate in the vote?
Well, let us unpack the issues. First of all, we're talking about quorum for conducting business. We are talking about quorum for taking decision. And you are now bringing a third issue of whether or not the Speaker, when he's presiding, can vote.
And can be counted.
And can be counted.
Can be counted and can vote. There's
Yes.
a contention that he cannot be counted. Those who are making that contention say that if he cannot vote, how can he be counted?
Well, I haven't said he cannot vote. I haven't said that. Whether or not the Speaker can be counted is to be determined by, on the strength of Article 102 and 104. And I'm submitting that there is absolutely no equivocation about that. It's clear. It's a basic tried learning. 102 talks about one type of quorum for conducting business. Not too far away from it, 103, 104, it talks about another quorum for taking decisions. 102 excludes the person who is presiding. 104 does not. So clearly, I mean, I've given you the legal principle.
Yeah, okay,
and
fair enough.
there are Supreme Court cases.
So this satisfies the fact that he can be counted.
He can be counted.
So when he said that 137 plus me, MP for Bekwai,
yes,
he was correct.
It's very legally sound. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And in fact, there's no contention about that. And I've told you.
There's contention on social media, though.
There's the House of Commons rules. There are precedent decisions in the House of Commons and the Parliament of Canada, which has determined these kinds of issues before. There's no question about that. But why will he not be counted? He's a member of Parliament as well. And he's entitled to represent the people of his constituency. Unlike the Speaker, who is not a member of Parliament, the first and second Deputy Speakers are members of Parliament. So you are never to lose sight of the fact that they are members. So then it's just to say that anytime there's an issue on the floor and the first Deputy Speaker or the second Deputy Speaker presides, the people of their constituency extinguish their constitutional right of representation. But that will make it totally in contravention with even the Constitution. So the Article 104 and Article 102 read together, construed together, leads you to the only unavoidable conclusion that the first and deputy speakers, when they are presiding, are counted for purposes of establishing a quorum for decision taking. Will they be able to vote or not? Even before I get to that, the Speaker did not vote today. He didn't have to vote. So he didn't participate in the voting. But will he be able to vote? I would say yes, he will be able to vote. Because if you go to Article...
But look at 104, 2.
That's what I'm going to.
Yeah.
If you go to Article 104, 2, the Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. First of all, when you construe this whole Constitution, and we don't have the time to do that here, I can get a brief for you. When you construe this whole Constitution, whenever the framers of the Constitution talks about Speaker, they refer to the Speaker properly so-called. Hold on.
Yeah, go on.
Take Article 1 to the last article of this 1992 Constitution. The framers of the Constitution keep using the language Speaker, first Deputy Speaker, second Deputy Speaker, the person presiding. They never interchange them. And again, the canon of interpretation, if they intended the Speaker to mean Speaker, first Deputy Speaker, second Deputy Speaker, they would have used Speaker throughout and come to the interpretation part and say Speaker means first Deputy Speaker. But they go on and on. Even Article 102, 104, they distinguish between the person presiding. They don't say Speaker. They don't say Speaker.
They say the person
they
presiding.
say the person presiding.
So the Constitution isolates roles and people.
So that it could be the Speaker presiding, he's excluded. It could be a first Deputy Speaker presiding, he's excluded. It could be the second Deputy Speaker presiding, he's excluded. Once you are presiding for the purpose of quorum for conducting business, you are excluded. But it comes to 104 and it doesn't exclude the first and second deputy speaker. And I'm saying to you, the bigger issue is that when you take this constitution, the framers of the constitution are very deliberate in distinguishing between Mr. Speaker, first deputy speaker, second deputy speaker, the person presiding. Now, Paul, the jurisprudential underpinnings for that kind of construction is that the framers of the constitution recognizes that the speaker is not or cannot be a member of parliament. Even if you're a member of parliament and you contested for speakership, you have to resign. But they appreciate that the second and first deputy speakers may be members of parliament. May be members of parliament. And to the extent that they are members of parliament, the right of their constituents to representation ought not to be taken away by the mere fact that they are first and deputy speakers of parliament. So, in this particular vote, if the speaker was required to vote, the first deputy speaker was required to vote, he would have been entitled to vote.
So the point you are making here that in 102.2,
but he didn't vote in this case.
In 102.2, where they said that the speaker shall not retain his original vote, or the speaker shall neither have an original vote or a casting vote. That reference to the speaker should mean
the speaker.
Should mean the speaker.
They mean the speaker,
as opposed to the first deputy speaker and the second deputy speaker.
They mean the speaker, and look, Paul, they mean the speaker. That's what the framers of the constitution mean. They mean the speaker. Listen, Article 57(2). Okay. The president shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana, and in descending order, the vice president, the speaker of parliament, and the chief justice shall take precedence over all other persons in Ghana. When they say the speaker of parliament, they mean the speaker of parliament.
It does not include the president.
No, they mean the speaker
so
of
that
parliament.
So that the president has traveled, the vice president has traveled, and the speaker has traveled, the first deputy speaker cannot be sworn in as president. It will be the chief justice.
No, he cannot. The first deputy speaker can only be sworn in as president when he is voted to, or he takes the position of the speaker. Which is why Professor Kumado, wherever he is, I salute him. He is the man who taught me the distinction of Article 57(2), the president, and the succession. In my constitutional law class.
Tell us.
Where he said, the president in Article 57(2) talks about president, vice president, speaker, chief justice. 57(2), it talks about president. Then you go to Article 60 or so. I'm not too sure if it's Article 60, but you go to a particular provision in the executive, Chapter 8, I think it's Article 60, where it talks about succession. And it says president, vice president, speaker, and it ends there. It doesn't say chief justice. It doesn't say chief justice. And the principle of the tool of interpretation are just enunciated, which is that the framers, when they intended that the chief justice should be the fourth in terms of precedence in Article 57(2), they said so. When it came to succession, they ended
succession
as
being
speaker.
if the president is not there, the vice president becomes president.
So if the president is not there, the vice president,
then the speaker.
If the speaker is not there, the first deputy speaker was sent to speakership and then becomes the acting president. If he's not there, the second deputy speaker will go in that ladder, not the chief justice. Now, there is a jurisprudential underpinning for that kind of arrangement because the president is voted for, the speaker, to some extent, is voted for.
Electoral college, by the
vicariously.
Vicariously. He's voted for vicariously. By members of parliament who are themselves elected.
The citizens elect the members of parliament, and the members of parliament go to elect the speaker. So he has a mandate of a sort. So in terms of governing, mandate to govern, he has some.
Oh, that's interesting. I get it.
And that's the flow, but not the chief justice. The chief justice
He
appointed.
has no popular mandate.
It's by no way
to reduce the
image or be a derogatory of the no, but it's just the jurisprudence of it. So my point is that when the framers of the constitution say speaker, they mean speaker. And in some places, they say first deputy speaker, they say second deputy speaker, and then they say the person presiding. So the speaker, the first deputy speaker and the second deputy speaker are counted for purposes of establishing a quorum for decision making. So do they have the right to vote also as members of parliament, because they wear two hats.